You're listening to the Big Fred Tuesday, and now it's time to talk about the history of cinema. Actually, it's time to talk about one of the greats of modern American cinema, as the American film director David Lynch turned 75 this past week, and what a career he has had. One of the most amazing filmographies of modern times, I would say, as well as a remarkable multimedia output, as he has often crossed over to other media, including television and music recording. As Mark Cousins said in his intro to his scene-by-scene interview with the director, he made the cult film of the 70s, Eraserhead, the nightmare of the 80s, Blue Velvet, and the surreal TV event of the 90s, Twin Peaks. It's odd to think that the source of the surrealist and at times nightmarish cinematic vision was an idyllic childhood in Eisenhower-era America, but he is also eccentric, as some of his projects beyond cinema have also shown, including his YouTube channel, on which he has been regularly active as of late, and on which he has been sharing, among other videos, daily weather reports that reveal he hasn't lost the childish sweetness that make even the darkest of his movies tender in an odd way. In fact, Mel Brooks, who of course produced The Elephant Man, once defined him as the Jimmy Stewart from Mars, which I find is an amazing phrase to capture the essence of David Lynch, at least as we have known him thus far. Looking back at some of the titles of his oeuvre, of his filmography, you've got The Elephant Man, which was a trip to Victorian London that is among his rare endeavours away from his native United States. This is the film that really put him on the mainstream. And following that, Dune, the sci-fi flick, was a flop, but Blue Velvet, released later, garnered him much respect from critics and audiences alike and earned him his second Oscar nomination. Wild at Heart, well, a bit shallow, won the Palme d'Or in Cannes, but it would soon be followed by possibly my favourite film of his, Lost Highway. Rarely has a film been weird and fantastic, complex yet oddly organic and entertaining, sinister and yet delightful as Lost Highway. It's a journey through desire, a resurfacing of the repressed, which is a driving theme in Lynch's cinema, for whom an exploration of the dark side of everyday life is a true driving force. After that, later noteworthy titles as the brilliant neo-noir Mulholland Drive and returning to his own Twin Peaks series, David Lynch announced that he would never direct another film again. That would make Inland Empire from 2006 his final feature film ever. Yet, almost as a form of protest, the Cahiers du Cinéma, the legendary French film magazine and one of the most prestigious movie publications in the world, has selected David Lynch's Twin Peaks: The Return as the best film of the decade, the ever-provocative Cahiers du Cinéma. This prompted people to return to the age-old question, which perhaps will never be answered. What is cinema? We look to auteurs like David Lynch to answer that question, because they are the ones who truly expand the known borders and conventions of the cinematic art form, and in doing so, they keep its vibrant tradition alive, a tradition of constant thematic and technological innovation. To him, I have dedicated a chapter of my book, Eye of the Beholder, available on Amazon.com. Sorry about the plug, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And to me, he remains one of the greatest American filmmakers, at least of his generation, but I would also argue of all time. Anyways, you're listening to the Big Fred Tuesday, and I urge you to stay tuned as we continue with our show after this.